Before reading Little Women chapter 1, I will introduce the characters in this book. So they were called March family. So there were seven peoples in that family. Mrs. March, Mr. March, Margaret called Meg. She was 16 years old. Josephine was called Jo. She was 15 years. Elizabeth was called Beth. She was 13 years. And Annie was called Amy only. So she was 12 years old. So they were four family. So Mr. March liked to call his all four daughters little women. Little women. So their father were calling them little women. Okay. So now let me introduce them some. So Mr. March, he was a priest. He was away at war. So Mr. March was prized in the war. Mrs. March, she was tall, good-looking woman. She worked hard for her family. So what was Mrs. March? Mrs. was tall, good-looking, and she worked hard for her family. Margaret, she was the eldest at March sisters. She was very pretty and 16th of age. She was called Meg. Okay, Margaret was called Meg. Josephine, she was 15th with tall long hair that she thought that her hair was only her beauty. She was also called Jo. Now Elizabeth, she was 13th and a quiet girl with bright eyes. She was also called Beth. Amy was 12 and the youngest in the March family. She had a golden hair and blue eyes. So they also had a neighbor. He was called Laurie. Laurie was a neighbor of the March family. He lived with his grandfather, Mr. Lawrence. So Laurie was Laurie Lawrence. And whom he lived with? He lived with his grandfather. What was his name? Mr. Lawrence. So Mr. Lawrence's full name was Mr. James Lawrence. Now let us start with the first chapter. So first chapter is Playing Pilgrims. It was an afternoon in winter and the four girls of the March family were sitting by the side of the fire and talking. It was a comfortable room. The furnitures were plain and very old, but there were a few good pictures hanging on the walls. Several shelves were filled with books. There were pots of flowers were near the windows, and it was quiet and pleasant. So it was an afternoon in winter, and the four sisters of the March family were sitting side by the fire and talking. So it was a comfortable room. The furnitures were plain and old, but there were good pictures hanging on the wall. Several shelves were filled with books. So some shelves were filled with books, and there were pots near the window, and it was quiet and pleasant. The light from the fire shone on the girls as they talked. Margaret, called Meg by the family, was a 16 and very pretty. Josephine or Joe was 15 tall and thin with long, thick hair. She used to say her hair was only her beauty. She wanted to write stories and was not interested in the things that girls of her age are usually interested in. Next came Elizabeth or Beth. She was a quiet girl of 16 with bright eyes. She loved music and everyone loved her. When she wanted most of all was to play the piano well. Amy, the youngest, was 12. She thought she was a very important person. She had golden hair and blue eyes and wanted to be an artist. So here they have also been introduced. So here they are introduced well. Now Christmas plannings. So the winter has came. So Christmas will also come in winter. So they will plan about Christmas. The girls were talking about Christmas. They talked about what they were going to do, and what presents they were going to buy. Meg was saying, "You know, girls, Mother said we should not have presents this Christmas. It is going to be hard winter for everybody. She thinks we should not spend our money to please yourselves with our men are fighting in the army. It won't seem like Christmas without presents and Joe." So the girls were talking about the Christmas. They talked and they were saying what presents they are going to buy. So Meg said that, "You know, Mother has, so we should not have presents." So their mother told them, Meg was telling that their mother told them that this Christmas they will not get presents. So it is very hard for everyone. So she thinks we should not spend our money because her father and many people were in army. So they should not spend their money to buy presents. So Joe said, "It won't seem like without presents." So she told that Christmas will not look nice without presents.